Hello, my name is Dr. Sandra Cosgrove. I'm a history professor at the College of Southern Nevada, and I'm the executive director of Vote Nevada, which is a small nonprofit that focuses on civic engagement and civics education. Tonight, I'd like to discuss with you what a school board trustee does. We've got 3 positions that are up for election this cycle. You're going to be engaging with those candidates. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands what a school board trustee is and what they can do. So the first thing I'd like to do is share my screen and start a PowerPoint presentation. Okay. So what does a school board trustee do, the Nevada version? Again, I'm Dr. Sandra Cosgrove, history professor at College of Southern Nevada, executive director of Vote Nevada. So when we're looking at a governing body, oftentimes you want to look for their authority in law. So where do they get their authority from? Well, a school board is in a school district, and a school district is in a county, and a county is in a state, and a state's within the United States. So obviously the very first source of authority we look at is the US Constitution. The US Constitution doesn't say a whole lot in the body about states, but it does give some parameters as to things that the states cannot do. It talks about how the states will be seen from a national perspective, that they're going to be equal, full faith and credits given to each state's laws and public acts and records. But most importantly, in the US Constitution, it says the United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a Republican form of government. And Republican in this instance means representative. So every state will have some type of representative government. Doesn't have to be exactly the same, does have to be representative though. In the Bill of Rights, Amendment 10 also says the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. So once again, founders of this country saying, hey, if we forgot something, we're going to go ahead and set aside those things for the states and to the people. Coming kind of down in a hierarchy, federal constitution, the laws that are passed by that Congress under that federal constitution. The next thing in line is going to be the Nevada State Constitution. Article 4 is the legislative department. In section 25, it says that we'll have uniform county and township government. The legislature shall establish a system of county and township government, which shall be uniform throughout the state. Section 26 says boards of county commissioners, election and duties. The legislature shall provide by law for the election of a board of county commissioners in each county, and such county commissioners shall jointly and individually perform such duties as may be prescribed by law. Article 11 goes on to talk about the legislature encouraging education. Section 2 talks about uniform system of common schools. Section 3 talks about a pledge of certain property and money escheated, states and fines collected under penalties of law for educational purposes. And then section 6 talks about the support for university and common schools. Now we need to discuss what the Dillon's Rule is and why Nevada is called a Dillon's Rule state. So the Dillon's Rule is derived from the 2 court decisions issued by Judge John F. Dillon in Iowa of 1868. It affirms the previously held narrow interpretation of a local government's authority, in which a sub-state government may engage in an activity only if it is specifically sanctioned by the state government. Dillon's Rule was challenged by Judge Thomas Cooley of the Michigan Supreme Court in 1871. With the ruling that municipalities possess some inherent right of local self-government. Cooley's rule was followed for a short time by the courts in Indiana, Iowa, Kentucky, and Texas, until the U.S. Supreme Court upheld Dillon's Rule in 1907, Hunter v. City of Pittsburgh, and again in 1923. Since then, the following tenets have become the cornerstone of American municipal law and have been applied to municipal powers in most states. And these are: a municipal corporation can exercise only the powers explicitly granted to them, those necessarily or fairly implied in or incident to the powers expressly granted, and those essential to the declared objects and purposes of the corporation, not simply convenient, but indispensable. So Nevada is a Dillon's rule state. That means the power of governance in this state resides with our legislature, and then our legislature allocates parts of that power out through laws and through budgets. They go down to the counties, municipalities, the school districts, and the Board of Regents. So when we're looking for the actual rules that govern education in the state of Nevada, the hard and fast rules are going to be in Nevada revised statutes, so in state law. And in state law, it's Title 34 that covers education. And within Title 34, you see all these different chapters that establish the laws for education and how education is managed in the state of Nevada. And this covers everything from examinations to textbooks, to gifted students, to school property, to intercollegiate athletics. Everything you can imagine that is related to education, you can find the hard and fast rule, otherwise known as the law, in Nevada revised statutes. So when we're looking at some reference sources, what I want to do right now is I want to do a stop share, and I want to pull up Nevada revised statutes in relationship to school law. And so under Chapter 38, we have local administrative organization. And what do we see here? School districts. And so we're going to be looking at the creation, the power to sue, and the name. Right under here, what do we see? The Board of Trustees. And so when you're looking at all these different Nevada revised statute chapters, all of these laws pertain to the Board of Trustees. So let's go ahead and we're going to go down here. So when we're looking at the county school district and the number of trustees, what you're going to see is you're going to see a formula based on the number of pupils enrolled in the school year. And so there is a formula, so it's formulaic, where you're looking at counties that have school districts that are going to be under 1,000 pupils and those that are going to be over 1,000 pupils. Coming down, you're going to see the superintendent of public instruction. And so this is going to be at the state level and the duties associated with that position. You're going to see election of trustees. And so it says that when we're looking at the number of trustees, again, there's a formula. So you're going to be looking at the number of pupils that are in that district for that county to be able to say how many people how many trustees there's going to be, how they're going to divide up the boundary lines when it comes to the districts. And then it lays out how we do election of trustees. Here we've got for districts that have over 25,000 pupils. We've got districts that drop below 1,000. So there's all these different formulas to make sure that each one of our counties is able to have representative government when it comes to the school district. We have alternate manner of creating elections for trustees within school districts. Very, very detailed rules. Optional districts for election of trustees. Again, looking at the number of students that are in those school districts, and each one of them has their own set of rules. Now we get down to something really important. Notice right here, it says qualification of trustees, and it has those 3 lines right there. A candidate for office of trustee of a school district shall be a qualified elector, so it has to be someone that meets the qualifications to register to vote and cast a ballot, and have the qualifications of residence within the county school district required for the office for which she or he seeks election. And so you have to be considered a resident of the county for the school district board that you want to run for. But that's it. There's 2 qualifications. So there might be discussion about, we might want to talk to our legislators, and we want to talk to our trustees and say, we've got some pretty big counties now. Clark County is very big. Washoe County is very big. We've got these, huge districts. Maybe we want to think about some more qualifications. Do we want people that have a business background? Do we want to make sure we have parents on there? We can talk about all kinds of qualifications, but right now that's a pretty short list. So that might be something as we're talking about reform that we might want to look at. Going down, we're talking about declaring candidacy, the election, what we call the certification of the elections, vacancies, temporary appointments. Then we get down to where it says subsistence and travel for trustees. Here we see that trustees are going to receive a salary based on this part of NRS, which is down below. So we'll want to make sure that we look at that. But it does talk about traveling expenses and per diem to make sure that we're not overburdening anyone who's going to be a trustee. Talks about terms, talks about oath. We're talking about contracts here. A member of any board of trustees shall not be financially interested in any contract that they're going to vote on. If they do have a financial interest, then they must recuse themselves. It talks about the organization of the board of trustees. So it talks about electing a president, it talks about having a member be a clerk. It talks about additional officers. So even down to the organization of the board and how they constitute themselves is in Nevada revised statute. Here we have salaries for trustees. And so it says in a school district in a county whose population is less than 20,000, so this is the population of the county, the salary is $250 a month. If the county has a population of 20,000 to 100,000, $400 per month. If it's a district in a county whose population is 100,000 or more, then the salary is $750 per month. So even in our largest counties like Clark County, a trustee is going to get $750 a month. And considering the number of hours that they put in, that's not a lot of money. I've had people say to me, oh, I'm sure that that person's probably running to be on the board of trustees because, you know, they just want the salary. No, that's not a whole lot. I mean, we may want to talk if we're going to add in more qualifications, maybe increasing that salary. Maybe, you know, if we want to attract more people to the position through more stringent qualifications, we might want to talk about raising that salary. So going down here, we've got duties of the clerk. Now, you know, talking about the number of hours that it takes to be a trustee, there's required professional development for trustees. And so all of these where you see chapter here, this is where you're looking at other laws that have been passed by the legislature that a trustee has to be familiar with. Open meeting law, the Public Records Act, ethics commission and how the ethics commission functions in the state of Nevada, fiduciary duties. A trustee has to be responsible for all these things. And so these are really important. Going down, it talks about meeting, it talks about meeting quorum, it talks about broadcasting meetings, talks about membership in school board associations. But notice this is a lot of information that a trustee has to be aware of and has to follow. And so you won't be able to go onto a school district website and see all this laid out. What you're going to see on the school district website is you're going to see the policies of the school board of trustees. If you want to know the actual law that governs education in Nevada, that comes from our legislature and it's in Nevada revised statute. We also have Chapter 388, the systems of public instruction. We have Chapter 392 that just talks about pupils. And so all of these different chapters have a lot of Nevada revised statute that governs what happens within our school districts. So it's really important if you're engaging with somebody that wants to be a trustee, that you kind of have in your mind the things that they are able to do within that position. The next thing I want to talk about, as we're, you know, now that we've talked about laws, is actually talk about the legislature. So if you want to know, you know, what did our legislature do in the last session? What did they do in the last two sessions? If you go over to the Nevada State Legislature's website and you click on Nellis, you can then go here to where it says select session, and you can pick any of the previous sessions. So let's go to the last legislative session, which is in 2021. And one thing that's really easy to do is if you click on committees, you'll notice that the Assembly and the Senate both have education committees. So if you click over to the Education Committee, something that you can do quickly is just click on bill status. And it will show you all the bills that the committee heard, and then it will give you a status on what happened to that bill, whether it was heard, whether it was passed, whether it was amended, whether it failed. And then if you specifically want to know, you know, what was the final language? So what was the final language of AB 38? If we go over to the AB 38 page, and it shows us the votes and the fiscal note. If we scroll all the way down here, it's going to show us, and we can actually watch as a recording, every single hearing that this bill was mentioned and worked on. And so we can go through that. And then if we go all the way down here, notice where it says as enrolled. If you click on this, this is going to give you the final version of the bill. And notice right here, you can actually go through and read word for word what the bill says as it went to the governor's office for signature. And so as enrolled means it went over to the governor's office for signature. If we want to know, for instance, exactly, I just like to see a listing of the bills that the governor signed, we can come back over to legislation, reports and links. We can come down here to bill reports. We can go to the governor's actions on bills, and we can say bill signed by the governor. And right here are the 557 bills that were signed by the governor. It gives you the bill's name, a very, very short description, and then it tells you the effective date. And again, if we wanted to, we could go to the bill page from here. But the next thing I would like to show you that's equally important is budgets. So you notice up here, it also says budgets. So if we want to, we can look at budgets by number, by title, by department, or by function. So let's look at by function. And if we go by function, we can scroll down here and look at right here. Here's education. So if I click here, this is going to show me all the different state budgets that eventually trickle down into our schools. And so these are our revenue streams. Notice how many budgets are here. There is quite a few. And so if you're specifically looking at something, let's say you're interested in the Gear Up program or school safety. This is a thing that we're all talking about right now. So if we click on school safety, we can actually go in and we can look at all the different line items in this budget and then start digging in to see how much money was allocated. Maybe we could specifically find a part of this budget and say, hey, if we added a few extra dollars here, or maybe move some money around there, maybe we could get some more school psychologists, maybe some more mental health professionals. But all of this information is here on this very well run, very well put together website that allows you to work in partnership with the trustees that are on our school boards to be able to say, hey, you know what? I want to work with you to make sure that we get more people in our schools to help protect our teachers, or we're going to get more tutors in the schools to help with learning loss. So let's talk to the members of our assembly. Let's talk to the members of our Senate. Let's maybe talk to the governor's office. Let's start looking at some of our budgets. Let's work together, in partnership to make sure that we can do the things that we need to do. The last thing I want to show you is we'll look at the Clark County School District's page, website, and right here where it says governance policies. And so when you're thinking about the school board, kind of think of this funnel where we've got, the governor is doing his recommended budget. You've got the legislature, they're doing bills, things are kind of funneling together. Bills are going to get attached to funding. They end up getting actuated, they're going to be put into effect, and the ones dealing with education are going to come down to our school boards for our trustees. The trustees then need to implement. So it's going to be their job to make sure those bills are coming down as they're coming down from the governor and the legislature, and they're coming to the school board. They need to have a board that does implementation. And some bills are written very broadly. And so there might need to be subcommittees that are set up, and there's going to need to be policy reviews. And so it's very important for our school board to have good governance policies. So if you go to the school district's website, you'll see all the governance policies that will allow them to do implementation of the laws that are passed for education. So I'm going to do a stop share really quick, and I'm going to come back to the PowerPoint presentation. And so when you're looking at reference materials related to the boards of trustees, you're going to be looking at Nevada revised statutes. You're going to be looking at the legislative website, and you're also going to need to remember that our employee groups within the school districts have bargain contracts. And so it's important to remember that that's out there as well. Okay, moving next. And, last but not least, you've got the Board of Trustees governance policies that you're going to want to remember about and look at. So when we're electing a trustee, we need to be thinking of trustees as people that allocate budgeted funds. They're going to implement past laws. They're going to recognize bargain contracts. So it's all within their scope of influence and their scope of practice to be the people that are doing these things that are coming down to them. And so it's really important for us to remember those things that's coming down to them that they're then going to be implementing. It's also important for us to remember as we're working with our trustees that right now is an important time to not only be talking to the people who want to be a trustee, so they're a candidate, but this is an election cycle that has candidates for governor. So if you're out and about, and you have a chance to talk to some of our gubernatorial candidates, talk to them about education funding. All of our members of the assembly are up for election. So make sure you're talking to them about laws that have been passed, laws that still need to be funded, things that we can be doing into the future. There's a certain percentage of our state senators who are running for election right now. As you're running into them at candidate meet and greets, or you're going on to Zoom meetings with them, ask about education and what their plans are for the next legislative session. Because it's going to take all of these people and you and me to be able to do this right. For more information, I'm going to put this a link to this recording on the blog for Vote Nevada. I also have resources there for the primary election. You can also contact me if you need to. So I'm going to stop share. And I'm going to just thank you for spending some time with me. I'm hoping that we can all, do our best to go out there and talk to the candidates and really be thinking about what we need to do for education and school safety, and that we're going to, elect good people who have really good hearts and really do want to help, and that we're all going to work together to make sure that our kids are taken care of. So thank you very much.